Outside the windows of the library, the rain was coming down in sheets, the drops pattering against the glass. Tom was waiting for the time to close up the library, his eyes darting towards the clock, as if that would make time move faster. Tom's eyes flicker as he feels a strange sense of something. He couldn't quite put his finger on what it was, but he knew he had a bad feeling about something. Tom makes his way towards the forbidden section, his eyes narrowing as he approaches. The feeling grows stronger as he moves closer, and he starts to feel a sense of unease wash over him. He squints, noting that the section is locked, but clearly senses something amiss. Tom's gaze sharpens like a hawk, his suspicion piqued. He cautiously looks into the forbidden section, his eyes scanning the shadows, searching for any sign of an intruder. Yet, all he sees is darkness, and the quiet of the night settles like a heavy cloak. He remains tense, his senses alert, certain that something feels off. A small group of noisy boys catches attention, their chatter piercing the quiet of the library. Tom's expression immediately turns stern, and he strides over to them with a determined step. He clears his throat, his voice cutting through their conversation. Quiet, please. This is a library, not a social gathering. The boys quickly nod, their faces a mix of sheepishness and embarrassment. They quickly quiet down, realizing they've been caught by the imposing Tom. Good. He nods, his gaze sweeping across them. Keep it down. Others are trying to study and focus. Tom continues walking through the aisles, his footsteps quiet and measured as he searches the area for any signs of an intruder. The sense of unease persists, refusing to leave him despite the apparent order. His sharp gaze scans the shadows and hidden corners, wary of any unusual disturbances. Every creak of the old library floorboards catches his attention, adding fuel to his suspicions. As he moves deeper into the rows of bookshelves, the silence of the library becomes more pronounced. The distant sound of rain against the windows adds to the eerie atmosphere, and Tom's senses are on high alert. He ducks into a small section, his eyes narrowing as he catches a glimpse of something moving in the shadows. His heart quickens, the sound of his heartbeat in his ears, drowning out everything else. He quietly moves closer, his hands clenched into fists, ready for whatever he might find. Tom's intense focus is broken as he approaches the small Hufflepuff boy, only to realize he's no threat. The moment he realizes the boy's just a startled first year, Tom's expression softens slightly. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Tom takes a few moments to compose himself, leaning against a nearby shelf. He checks his pocket watch, noting the time. He sighs, knowing he still has some time before the library closes. He runs a hand through his hair, his mind still troubled by the earlier disturbance. With one last glance around the library, he waits patiently, his sharp eyes ever alert for anything out of the ordinary. Tom turns his gaze towards the window, watching the heavy rain pour down outside. He let out a soft sigh, his eyes fixated on the storm. The raindrops against the glass create a soothing, almost hypnotizing rhythm, but it does little to ease his troubled mind. With the clock chiming, signaling the end of library hours, Tom gives a stern glance around at the remaining students. The library is now closed. Please gather your things and exit calmly. He watches as the students gradually begin to pack up and leave, their murmurs and footsteps blending into the sound of rain outside. His gaze sweeps the area once more, making sure that no one lingers behind. After closing the library door, Tom remains hidden inside, pretending to have left with the other students. He takes a moment to steady his breathing, his eyes darting around the now empty library. The sound of the rain outside is the only company he has, and he listens intently for any signs of movement. Plunged into the dark, Tom moves silently through the library, his footsteps barely audible. He makes his way toward the back of the area, his eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. He keeps a hand on a nearby shelf to maintain his bearings, and every sense is on high alert. The shadows cast by the sparse light seeping through the windows seem alive in the darkness, and Tom's heart races with anticipation. Tom's eyes narrow as he approaches the forbidden section. The sight of the door being opened sends a chill down his spine. His mind races with questions, and his heart pounds in his chest. How did it get opened? He slowly pushes the door open further, his gaze fixed on the darkness beyond. The shadows seem to swallow the faint light from the windows, creating an almost sinister atmosphere. With his wand clutched tightly in his hand, Tom cautiously enters the forbidden section, his footsteps measured and careful. He scans the area with a hawk-like gaze, searching for any sign of an intruder or disturbance. Every creak of the old floorboards seems magnified in the silence, and Tom's breathing is labored, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He can feel the tension in the air, as if the very atmosphere is thick with secrets and danger. Tom peeks cautiously around the corner, his heart thumping wildly in his chest. To his surprise, he sees a girl, her long blonde hair cascading down her back as she quietly searches for a book. He takes a moment to observe her, trying to assess the situation. His mind races with questions, wondering if this girl somehow managed to gain access to the forbidden section, and what her purpose here could possibly be. Without making a sound, Tom cautiously approaches you from behind, his footsteps light and stealthy, observing you as you continue to look for a book. His wand is tightly clutched in his hand, but for now, he remains unseen and silent. As you suddenly spin around, wand raised, you catch Tom off guard. He freezes, his eyes widening as the tip of your wand nearly touches his face. He takes a step back, his expression a mix of surprise and wariness. Tom holds your gaze, his expression now composed and cool. "I could ask you the same thing," he replies quietly, his voice even and measured. His hand still clutching his wand, he takes a small step forward, his eyes never leaving yours. Despite the wand pointed at him, Tom remains disconcertingly calm. He raises an eyebrow, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "Or what?" he challenges, his voice low and steady. He takes another step forward, his eyes still locked with yours. His gaze is unflinching, his eyes locked with yours, as if sizing you up. He doesn't flinch or show fear. Instead, he seems almost amused by your bravado. "You have courage," he says after a moment, his smirk growing wider, the tip of your wands almost touching his chest. Tom's gaze travels over your uniform, taking in the gold Gryffindor tie, and he smirks. "A Gryffindor, I see," he says, his voice tinged with condescension. "That explains your boldness, I suppose." Tom narrows his eyes as you advance your wand, his smirk still intact. He steps closer, closing the distance between you and him. "I'm Tom Riddle, a prefect here at Hogwarts," he replies coolly, his voice remaining steady and composed. His grip on his wand tightens. Tom's smirk softens into a small smile as he notices your nervousness. He relaxes slightly, tilting his head to the side. "Yes, I take it you've heard of me," he asks, his tone almost teasing. Tom's smile becomes a bit cocky as he hears your response, and he lowers his wand too. "I have quite the reputation, don't I?" he says, his tone still slightly teasing. He leans casually against a bookshelf, looking you over again. Tom's gaze flicks down to the book you're holding, and his smirk returns as he sees what it is. "Ah, a love spell book. Interesting choice." He raises an eyebrow and looks at you with an amused expression. Tom notices your efforts to hide the book, and his smirk widens. He moves closer, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Oh, there's no need to hide it from me," he says, his voice quiet yet playful. "I just find it amusing that a Gryffindor would stoop so low as to need a love spell." Tom leans closer, his voice still low and casual. Oh, but it is my business when you're in the forbidden section, clearly up to no good, and holding a love spell book. His gaze never leaving yours. I think it's very much my business, don't you? Tom considers you for a moment, his gaze still locked with yours. His expression softens slightly, and he lets out a soft sigh. Fine, he says, his voice losing some of its condescension. But I have a condition. Tom takes another step closer, his body almost touching yours now. He lowers his face so he's looking directly into your eyes, his expression serious yet teasing. You have to tell me why you need a love spell book, he whispers back, his voice soft but commanding. Tom observes as you place the book on the table, his eyes flickering between the open pages and your face. Yes, it's obvious you need a love spell, but why? Who is the unlucky target of your affection? He asks, his voice a mix of curiosity. Tom catches your hard look and doesn't back down. He stares back at you, his expression a mix of defiance and slight amusement. He leans against a bookshelf, folding his arms across his chest. What's with the look? He asks, raising an eyebrow. Don't like sharing your little crush with me? Tom lets out a chuckle, clearly enjoying the exchange. Ah, a fellow Gryffindor. How predictable, he says, his tone still mildly condescending. He pushes off the bookshelf and steps closer, peering over your shoulder at the pages of the love spell book. Tom smirks as you try to block his view, his gaze darting between the book and your face. Oh, come now. I just want to see what you're looking at, he says, his voice casual. He leans even closer, nearly pressing against your back as he tries to peek around you at the pages. Tom lets out a small scoff, his smirk widening at your sharp comment. He leans in even closer, his breath tickling your ear. I don't have a bedtime. Perks of being a prefect, he whispers back, his voice a low purr. Besides, it's much more entertaining to catch a little Gryffindor sneaking around the library after hours. Tom takes a step back, running a hand through his tousled locks. He looks you up and down, his gaze still amused. Trouble. That depends on what you consider trouble, he replies, his tone still casual. But I'm sure there could be some consequences for being in the forbidden section after hours. Tom's smirk returns as he leans back against the bookshelf, his gaze still locked on you. Oh, you're eager to hear your punishment, are you? Very well, he says, his voice low and almost mocking. Let's see. You've been caught in the forbidden section, in possession of a love spell book, and you're a Gryffindor. Tom raises an eyebrow, his smirk transforming into a small smile. Being a Gryffindor is not a crime per se, he replies, his tone slightly more amused than condescending now. But it does explain why you're so brave, or perhaps foolish, to sneak around the library late at night and mess with things you shouldn't be touching. Tom watches as you place the book back on the shelf, his gaze still locked on you. I suppose that will do for now, he replies, his tone slightly less condescending than before. But you do realize that being here and messing with a love spell book after hours isn't exactly allowed, right? Tom follows you slowly, his footsteps light and silent in the dim library. He lets go of a small smile, slightly amused by your sarcasm. Yes, really, he says, keeping his tone serious despite the slight smirk on his lips. You do know that the library's closed, right? And wandering around in the forbidden section when you're not supposed to is a sure way to get detention. Tom follows you out of the forbidden section, his gaze still fixed on you. He lets out a small sigh, clearly knowing that you're playing innocent. He's amused, but he keeps a stern expression. Oh, of course. You just happen to get lost and end up in the forbidden section with a love spell book. What a remarkable coincidence that was. Tom rolls his eyes, realizing you're trying to dismiss yourself. Wait a moment, he says, his voice suddenly authoritative. I can't just let you go without a warning. You've broken several rules tonight. Tom's eyes widen in surprise as you suddenly place your fingers to his lips, shushing him. His expression is a mix of surprise and annoyance, but he doesn't say anything just yet. Tom's eyebrows knit together as he strains to listen. He tilts his head, his expression softening slightly as he focuses on the sound of the rain outside. Tom watches you run off, his eyes wide with surprise. He's left standing there for a moment, stunned by your audacity. "Hey, wait," he says, but it's too late. You've already darted off down the aisle and disappeared from sight. Tom gazes out at the rain, his mind still stuck on your words. A small smile tugs at his lips as he repeats your words to himself. "Peaceful to sleep to," he murmurs, almost as if testing the words on his tongue. Tom closes up the library, his mind still occupied by the encounter with you. He can't seem to shake off your words and the way your fingers had silenced him. As he locks up, he mutters to himself, still lost in thought. "Peaceful to sleep. What is with that girl?" he murmurs, his voice tinged with annoyance, but also a hint of intrigue. Tom locks the last door, his expression thoughtful as he mutters to himself. "A love spell book. Seriously," he mutters, his tone a mix of annoyance and disbelief. As if that's going to solve anything. He then shakes his head, with a small smirk forming on his lips. "I suppose I'll have to find her tomorrow and get some answers." As Tom moves through the hallway, his mind keeps returning to you. He can't help but think about your boldness, your defiance, and that love spell book. "That girl," he murmured, a mixture of frustration and amusement in his voice. Why was she messing with a love spell? Who does she even like? In his mind, Tom tries to think about who could be the person you're interested in. He knows most of the Gryffindor boys and starts to cycle through them one by one, trying to figure out which one you could be trying to use the spell on.